Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Hey. Hello, Amy. Amazing Amy. Welcome, everyone, to Empathy Power Up, your 15-minute boost of empathy to get you through the week, to get some interesting food for thought, and just keep things moving as part of this continuous learning journey that we're all on and we continuously grow. My name is Kevin Shaw. My pronouns are he, him, and my amazing co host is.
Amy Wilson. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. And we have an amazing topic that I am excited to learn more about and share the dysfunctions of a team, especially around companies. We're talking about what are some fundamental commonalities when teams do not function well, when dysfunction occurs. And that has been parsed through. Amy, kick us off on this topic.
So what's interesting is that I am bringing to you as I learn these things in my life, and I find them impactful for me.
Mhm.
I feel like they're kind of impactful for other people. So as I've been diving deeper into dysfunctions, there's this lovely book, um, the Five Dysfunctions of a Team, that was written by Patrick Lencioni. And I came across this book and I just started thinking, I started reading it, listening to an audiobook. I try to do a little bit of both of the things. And I just started thinking about like how this has applied in so many different dysfunctional spaces that I've been in before. So there's 5 of them. I'm going to go through each one and was thinking, also, you can go online and look at this as well. It's actually built like a pyramid. So the first one is going to be the foundational part of the pyramid. So think about each one kind of going until the wee top one, where it's the fifth one is kind of building upon the other ones that we're starting.
Yeah,
So
I've got an idea,
yeah.
Amy. I'm just gonna, while you do this, I'm gonna draw it on my whiteboard.
See, look, we were just trying to figure out how do we figure out how to show it
Yeah,
on screen, but he's going to do it.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Real time for you. Look at us. So number one is this foundational belief of trust and the lack of trust. So you know, you probably have heard some stories of like people not trusting each other in the sense of like, I don't think that this person's going to do a good job, right? In things, because it's like, and a lot of it might even have to do with ourselves and our mindsets around perfectionism, right? We've talked about that before, like a little bit about like, oh, this person can't do it as much as I can, right? And so when you have a team, you need to actually be able to say, you know what, I can let go of this and let somebody else take the lead here. So you probably have
Yeah.
experienced a story like that or two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is so fundamental. I'm so glad they do this pyramid thing, because what it really tells us is that if we don't have the trust part, everything else is pointless, and that's the foundation. And I think um, a good key indicator of how I see in my team, or from my people, early signs of maybe they don't trust. And it's not that they don't trust me or the system, it's just that it's the system that's created this. If they start showing anxieties around, if I make a smallest mistake, I'm going to get fired, having that fear of that, that shows that there isn't a trust between us and the team and them
Yeah.
and each other. Or if I speak up and say something stupid or wrong, that's going to be an issue, and then hence people don't speak up as much.
Hmm.
um, and only some of the strong voices or the leaders or just the couple of people are the ones you constantly hear. So these are good indicators where you can start seeing early signs of absence of trust. The
Mhm.
other piece is this phrase that I hear so much: trust but verify. In companies, trust but verify, which,
Trust but verify. I've never heard
yeah,
of that.
oh, I hear this is a big in companies, in tech and all. People will say trust but verify, and I find it problematic, the statement in itself, because it's
Hmm.
like you can't. It's two opposing things. You can't say trust but verify. The way I would
Hmm.
recommend you approach it, and because then you're basically sowing the, oh, it's like, I trust you, but let me verify. Then
Ah,
there is not trust, right? Like,
interesting.
or
Wow.
oh, I trust that you've done the job well, but it's also my job to verify, even
Okay.
if you put in a
Got it.
positive intent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But if we flip it and we say, let's verify together so we can build trust together.
Oh.
Change that, right? So it's this idea of what are the signs, like, and these are important signs. Do you trust your team to make a decision? Do they feel they can make a decision? These are important aspects that sort of come into this piece.
Yeah.
And one of the things I ask is during my one-on-ones with my team is, do you have any anxieties around your job? Let's talk about it. Ask this
That's a good question.
That sort of starts pulling at some of these trust problems that exist, and then you can start with those.
Yeah, that just made me think about one of my clients in particular. Like, there's this like lack of, the person who's the CEO of this company is just thinking about like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 5 years. The rest of the team doesn't know what that journey is like, or doesn't know what the company is like. So if you don't have that, if you don't have that trust established from the beginning, it's going to be really hard to let go. And then what experiences the CEO is the bottleneck of a lot of things, because it stops with that person. So I thought that might be something.
And I think what you just said, bottleneck, I love that, because what it does is, to fix dysfunction, you have to start from bottom up, trust, build that, and we'll go through this. But the problem, how you indicate what happens, is top down. You start seeing the bottlenecks because trust, the foundation is, you start seeing the problems coming on the other direction, which is even worse. So
it's interesting. Like, if you don't have trust, that actually is it changes a lot of things on a team. So an antidote to that, just to kind of talk about the opposite of how do you build trust? It's through vulnerability and courage to take risks with each other, and being like, you know what, I might not be at my best right now, but I'm trying my hardest. It might be a vulnerability. Right. So big number 2, if you're ready for the next step, is the fear of conflict. Fear of conflict. And I see this in a lot of different ways, because like, if you aren't, I think of conflict as healthy most of the time, right? And if you have this mindset around how, conflict helps you understand somebody a little bit better, right? But if you think conflict is criticism, right, that will shut a lot of people down. So if you have a fear of conflict, or saying that, like, if somebody has this mindset of like, if I get feedback from somebody, like, feedback to me is a gift, and feedback to a lot of people is a gift, because it's like, oh, this might be a boundary I've pushed, or whatever it is, right? So I think conflict can be good, right? But when it gets to really, really bad conflict, like a client before has, or a team member before was like, you might have an attitude about something. And I was like, I don't know if we are on the same page about that, right? If it builds up over time, right? And if you don't actually speak about it, right? So that's really important. So
totally. And I love everything you said. And in my experience, everything amazing that's happened on my life, a lot of the amazing things that's happened on my life has been on the other side of conflict. By understanding, powering through. Conflicts are uncomfortable. Managers, if you're afraid of conflict, of giving feedback or having tough conversations with the teams are giving trouble having that conflict to give feedback or having those tough confirmation. You also have a trust problem, because that means there's a trust problem. And then that being exaggerated, now you add the fear problem, and that becomes even worse. So what I would say is, always remind yourself, the world is going to be better on the other side of this conflict. Your world, their world, is going to be much, 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 much better.
And also, what you just said there reminded me of the different stages of group development as well. We could probably do a whole session on that, but it's like forming. It's essentially like, as you form something that has never been stood up before, it's forming, storming, norming, and then performing. So that kind of, that stages of group development is like, that storming phase is really, really important, because that's where the conflict happens, right? Because somebody comes in with one idea of something, another person comes in with that, and another idea of something else, right? And that's where really innovation happens, right? But being able to have empathy for somebody else's perspective is so critical to this work. So So
Yeah, the next one.
okay, 3. Lack of commitment. You've already written it down. Look at that. So the lack of commitment to that is essentially like, you know what? I am not committed to the work that we do, right? I I myself am just seeing this as a means to an end. And I'm not trying to work with the team to get to where I need to go.
Yeah.
You had a story that you wanted to share
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, it's like in companies we've heard of like, oh, that person's coasting, or people are just coasting, and this happens in large companies as well. That is like when you start seeing that lack of ownership, lack of that commitment. And when we say
Mhm.
commitment, it's not that commitment to the company, it's commitment to the impact, commitment to whatever you're progressing as a company. Even if you're making a B2B software to make someone's life slightly easier, that is a commitment to making someone's life easier. Are they
Mhm.
committed into that? And that you can see, are they just committed in doing their job, moving the paper from A to B, or are they committed to say, oh, I'm moving the paper from A to B, but if I move the paper from A to C, it can be even better for my customer. That's where you can
Mhm.
see the difference between dysfunction and function.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually this is really well linked to the antidote to kind of like this lack of commitment is actually having commitment from healthy conflict. So there's this kind of like this continuum where it's like, when you are leading a company or leading a team, everyone needs to be heard, right?
Mhm.
And then you can see where the disagreements happen, which is the next step along the way. Then you have to come to a decision point where we all decide where we're all going as an organization. You get buy-in from the team of like, this is where we all agree we're going, and then you can speak with one voice.
Oh, I
And
love it.
that kind of continuum is so crucial to the where the team is going, and making sure you have a team that is cohesive. So it's good. Number 4 is the avoidance of accountability.
Avoid accountability.
Yeah, so the lack of commitment goes along with that, right? So if you're not committed and people are not being accountable for the work that they do, then really the team is not moving forward. And so I see that in this idea of like accountability is like, if somebody is leading a team out there in the world, I think that, you know, they, and then you're seeing somebody on a team is like pulling more weight than another person, and then that leader sees that but doesn't address that. I've had this happen before. Like, my leader is so focused on like the senior leadership that they're not focusing on what the team is doing itself, and then so people aren't accountable, and then there's the conflict that happens, and not healthy conflict, it's bad conflict that
Mm-hmm.
happens. So that one is the antidote to that is to take accountability requires commitment. So you have to commit to the team, and then also you have to get to that buy-in piece, right? So all of us have to be like, okay, as a team we have to say, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this, we're all going to split this up, but then at the end of the day you're accountable to get that work done, and if you don't do it there's consequences, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Number 5, the last one, and thanks for showing that, is the inattention to results. So that you can see that these are all kind of linked to the one that was before it. So that one is really focused on, at the end of the day, like, you are not going from point A to point B unless, everybody's accountable to where they're going. And then they also are achieving the goals that they set. And so a lot of people talk about SMART goals, about, objectives. In the tech world, it's objectives and key results, or OKRs. So achieving those things and regularly checking in to see how are we achieving, going towards these goals and achieving these goals, and if are we in that direction, going in that direction, great. But if we're not going in that direction, maybe we need to change this goal or the results that we're having, because maybe it's not what we thought it was going to be.
Yes, I love that. And like for this piece, if you start seeing people are not attentive to the results, you have a dysfunctional team. So this can also be a litmus test for your team. As I was thinking, so if you start seeing, are people caring about results? Are results important? Or is it just let me do the job? Who's when I ask who's responsible for these results, no one answers. And they're just looking at each other, avoiding accountability. When I find someone and I say, okay, can you deliver? They are not sure, or other people aren't sure, or no one steps up, lack of commitment. You ask why is this happening? People don't speak up, people don't share, give you feedback, tell each other, fear of conflict. And then if you try to have and ask more questions and dive deeper, people just shut down, or people give you just the easy answer, like, oh, everything's great. There's absence of trust.
Yep. That's a great summary of all of that. I think, when you're not getting the results at the end of the day, it just it's like a reverse pyramid, right? You can just go back down that pyramid. And so at the end of the day, if you focus, the antidote for the top one is a focus on delivering measurable results, both collective and individual results, have accountability, and give feedback on the process. So to sum this all up, to bring it all full circle, there's five different ways you can create functional teams, right? So the flip side of what a dysfunctional team is going to be. So if you have starting at the top of the pyramid and going down, you need to focus on results. Great teams focus on the achievement of collective results as they go forward. The next one down the step is that accountability, right? Teams hold each other accountable for delivering against the plans that they set for themselves. Then it's that idea: a functional team are committed. They commit to decisions and plans of action of where we're going. And then the next one underneath that, which is becoming more foundational as we go along, is healthy conflict. You can engage in unfiltered conflict around ideas that people have. And it's kind of like we've talked about blameless postmortems before, is that like after you do this, making sure you come back after a project and making sure you're doing it even during a project, having it on a regular basis. And then the last one is trusting one another. One of my favorite quotes is by the founder of Under Armour, and he says, "Trust is earned in droplets and lost in buckets." And one of my favorite quotes, because that's so true and it's so foundational to how a team works. So
I'm going to be a great student. I'm going to get an A+ grade today, because what I did is I heard you and learned, and then I created output. So this is the reverse pyramid for a functional team.
I see your ring light's a little shining on it a little bit.
Yeah. So there, can you see it now?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is what is the reverse pyramid for a functional team? Vulnerability is very important. Top, like the idea, you need a lot of vulnerability, and you can flip this as well. But I thought it was interesting because we're going in opposite of a dysfunction. Comfort with discomfort. So you talked about healthy conflict, which is what? Be comfortable with discomfort. Third, when you are seeing lack of commitment, it's people don't feel seen and heard. Have them feel seen and heard. The next one, which was around avoidance of accountability. That is recognition, giving feedback. To avoid accountability, if you have that conversation declaration.
Yeah.
And finally, inattention results is focusing on the impact. If you focus on the impact, measure the impact, and really keep that goal, then you have this functional team. So we took the pyramid, and Amy and I, we have achieved what a functional pyramid could look like.
Yes, I love this, and I'm gonna don't erase that yet. I want to get a picture of that, and I'm going to try to put this up on a blog, because I think this needs to be shared in a bigger way. So thank you for joining me on that conversation and being such a great student. You're like, get a gold star today. And I wanted to circle back and being like, why am I even mentioning this? The reason why I'm mentioning this in particular is I've been diving into dysfunctions and dysfunctional teams. The book is amazing. Check it out. But we are also been launching in the Empathy for Change Collaborative this wonderful group called Healing from Dysfunctional Workplaces. And, Kevin went to our first soft launch of that a couple weeks ago. We have our next one scheduled for January 7th at noon Eastern time. And if you want to learn more about this kind of support group we've created for people who have gone through dysfunctional workplaces or is currently in one, and how do you fight the system, this is the place to be.
So I would give you 3 questions to ask yourself, and why this workshop and this group is so powerful, and it's almost gives you freedom to be to find yourself again. 1, do you feel anxiety about your job or your boss, about your leadership when you go into work? Do you always have some sense of burden and discomfort that you're carrying? 2, do you start doubting yourself when you go to work? If you are doubting yourself, then this is a place that I would highly recommend. And finally, 3, do you feel that you are not appreciated for who you are? These 3 questions, if you answer those questions, and any of them where you are like, yes, I'm anxious, or I don't feel appreciated, or you're starting to doubt yourself, I recommend going to this group, because this group is all the people who answer these questions similarly and have come together to share stories, grow, learn, and build a community that can drive systemic changes. So I'm so excited for this work.
Love those questions. Yes, absolutely. If you want to sign up for it, go to healingfromwork.com. That is where you'll learn more about our work and what we hope to accomplish, and then sign up via our form, and we'll send you the invite out very soon. So thank you, Kevin, for these 3 questions, and thanks for joining us. I think next week we're going to be taking some time off because it's the holiday. Is that?
No, I thought we were going to wrap up.
Oh, we're doing wrap up. Okay. Sorry.
We're last episode for the year next week. It's a quick wrap up.
Yes, we're going to do a wrap up of the year to reflect on our time. Thank you for the reminder, Kevin. And then that's going to be our, I think, last one for the year, and be ready for 2021. So see you soon. Take care.